Hi everyone. If we haven't met before, my name is Andy. I'm going to introduce myself a little bit for those of us that haven't met. I know a lot of you were able to take my classes virtually during quarantine, or I've got to come in and guest teach at your studio, or classes, or done choreography for you before. But if we haven't met before, my name is Andy, like I said. I base out of Kansas City, Kansas. It's easy because it's close to the airport. I travel a lot for teaching, judging, and choreography, so it's easy to just fly wherever I need to go. And also, it's really centrally located because I travel all over the United States to set choreography and teach classes. I'm very lucky. I only teach dance. I also do kinesiology work, injury prevention, body awareness, things like that. I work at the University of Kansas. I teach in their dance department along with working with their dance team every once in a while as well. I teach predominantly commercial dance classes. If you're thinking jazz technique, jazz funk, hip hop, tap, rhythm tap, modern, contemporary, in that genre. I also travel to 50, 60 studios a year to teach culture building, team building classes, choreography. I do a lot of teacher training as well. And then I'm very lucky, I also choreograph for a lot of different dance teams throughout the country, nationals routines, state routines, judge for many different competitions, whether that be high school dance team, middle school dance team, or dance studio competitions. And then I work for a few conventions as well, teaching on the weekends at their intensives and classes. With that being said, I've had quite a few people reach out to me because I have a pretty set program for how I teach all of the classes that I teach. I don't currently residentially teach anywhere. I'm very lucky, but I'm very booked up going into studios as a guest teacher. So this is more the curriculum that I use whenever I guest teach places. I feel like if people are willing to share what they do at their studio and what they're in need of, it's really helpful because then I can kind of unify how we train dancers whenever I come in. So it's really, really helpful to try to get this information out, and I'm happy to share it with everyone. And it was so cool to see how many people were interested in it because that means that you are really passionate about the program that you're running, and I love that because I get to go into all of these amazing studios and all they need is a little direction on how to make their dancers as successful, as happy, and as fun as they possibly can. So this video, you'll be able to scroll around, watch it as many times as you want. I'm going to upload it on YouTube as well, and I'll talk about quite a few different things. I feel like there's a lot of people that have questions about what I teach in classes or what you should be teaching in hip hop, especially what you need to have to move on to the next level. I know everybody deals with parents a lot that are like, my kid didn't move up. Why didn't they? And you always want to have a set answer, and sometimes you feel like you don't. You're like, well, they weren't ready, but you feel weird saying that. So I want to touch on a lot of these different things. I also want to talk about different steps that I use in different classes. I'll even show some of them and how to build more of a repertoire at the studio that you are at, whether owning or teaching. I also have a game that I use with a lot of my students from any age. You can go all the way from a beginner dancer to an advanced dancer. I teach every age and every level. I teach adult classes along with young dancers as well. So it can be used for anybody, and even whenever the kids get older, they still enjoy the game. Also going to talk a little bit about TikTok because I know that's something that we all are struggling with a little bit right now in the creativeness and how students really only want to do that. I'll also touch on music and the kind of music that I use and choose to teach for each age, obviously appropriateness level. And then we'll talk just a little bit more about a few other things that I use as tools in my classes. So what we're going to start with is the curriculum that I use for the levels of hip hop I teach. I'm going to base this off of a 3-level curriculum. Most people have beginner dancers, intermediate, and advanced, and obviously you can play with it and adjust as you need to. So what I did for everyone, because this is how I kind of roll with everything, is I always make up a list of steps. So you're thinking the steps that you put into a dance, especially hip hop. So in this situation, we're going to start with beginner steps. I wrote down about 10 examples that we can kind of talk through. I would say that this, I'm gonna hold it a little closer and a little steady for you. If you want to screenshot it or take notes, you're more than welcome to. So these would be what I would consider your younger dancers or your beginning dancers, if you have older kids that are beginner. We're starting with things like step touches. So you're talking about just stepping in just like this. That would be a really beginner step. You're also thinking about bounces, getting really low, rocking side to side. You're thinking about scoops, going one way or the other, trying to make sure that everybody is able to do the right and the left side. A little bit more on the intermediate beginner would be a grapevine, things like this. I'll explain what we do to make them kind of hip-hoppy in a second. You can also think about slides, any sort of slides that move side to side, back, even facing a similar direction, whatever you feel. I actually use jazz squares in my hip-hop curriculum as well, because I feel like it really helps students get the chest drop and the lowness in the plie that judges are always talking about and that I talk about a lot when I'm judging hip-hop numbers. So you're thinking about any sort of jazz square as well. A couple more, you're thinking about touches that come out and in. These are really difficult for some younger dancers, so I spend a lot of time on them, because when you think step touch, you're moving towards the leg that's doing the work. When you think touching out and in, you're keeping the weight on the stationary foot and then just letting the other one come out and together. For some reason, that blows a lot of dancers' minds, so making sure that you're keeping the weight centered and your foot is coming out and back in from that position. Another one that I use with my beginner dancers would be a cha-cha or a chasse, however you want to look at it. You're thinking step together, step, step together, step, step together, step. I call it a cha-cha or a chasse, whatever you're looking for on that. An out cross heel, that would be a little bit of an old school retro kind of feel. You're thinking out, cross the heel, out, cross the heel. And then lastly, I also do pivot turns with my beginning dancers, because there's a lot of things you can add to them, and I feel like it's good to get their center off and not facing the front the entire time. So what I tend to do with my beginner dancers is the first couple of weeks of class, if you're a residential teacher, maybe you start teaching some of these moves. Maybe you start with the bounces, and once they feel comfortable with this, you can start saying things like, okay, everybody, we're gonna act like we're waving at somebody that's 400 feet away. And then you can get them really involved by asking, okay, raise your hand if you have somebody that you wanna wave at really far away. If you're really excited, they love it. And the 3-year-olds raise their hand and they're like, I wanna wave at my mom. And then everybody in the room can say their mom's name. My mom's name is Carla, so I would go, hey, Carla. And then you've just made a variation that they feel really happy about because they were able to add to it. You made up the bounce, but then you asked for their opinion on the arm variation. Another one would be a bounce that doubles up. I use the analogy pulling up sweatpants, because everybody knows the feeling of putting dance warm-ups on over a costume, and you're thinking about taking your arms and pulling them up as you use a plie. Or you could take your arms crossed over your chest. So you're just making variations on steps. And the best thing is that young students, especially your beginner dancers, are going to be so excited to share what they want to do with their arms. So you could have a solid base of the feet. You say, we're going step, cross the heel. Then you could say, okay, Alyssa, I saw your hand come up for what you want to do with your arms. And maybe she says she wants to do this. Then you've got arms. Now the variation is done for you. So it's really good to keep those younger ones super involved. They absolutely love giving their opinion on everything. And you all know and can probably giggle about this. They love telling us stories, and it gives just a little snippet of time for them to say it, like how we talked about, okay, everybody on the count of 3, yell who you're gonna wave at, and everybody's like, my mom, and they all have so much fun with it. So with that being said, it gives you kind of an idea on how to build those beginning steps for the first couple of weeks of class. So that would be on the beginner side of things. When I think about younger dancers or beginner dancers, I don't want to just say younger because sometimes we get beginner dancers that are older. You have to come up with ways to make it stay exciting for them. So I'm goofy. I'm a goofball every time I teach, and I love teaching the younger ones because I have the personality of a 5-year-old, even though I'm 29, and I love it. but it's really fun to get them involved in other ways too. So let's say we're taking our combo and it starts with 4 bounces. I'm gonna say, okay, I need somebody to raise their hand if they know an animal that is really slow. And everybody gets so excited and they raise their hands, and you call on somebody and they say turtle speed. So then I tell them, I say, okay, we're gonna do it turtle speed this time. And we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and they think it's hilarious. They giggle and they have so much fun with it because you change your voice and they got to include what animal they wanted to. Then you could say, I want to do it really fast this time. Can somebody raise their hand and give me an example of an animal that's super fast? Somebody raises their hand and you say, what about you? And they say cheetah. And then you go 5, 6, 7, 8, bounce, 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 bounce. And then you ask everybody, you can go, okay, who did it? Did anybody get it? And then they're like, yeah, I did. And you're like, I blinked and it was over. And you just have so much fun with them. I also do funny things with arms because I feel like a lot of students get awkward arm placement when they're younger. So you could say, this time we're going to do the entire dance like a T-Rex. And I know it sounds so goofy, but you can think about them bouncing with their arms like a T-Rex. And then the next time you maybe say, we're going to glue our arms to our side like we have super glue stuck, and just do the arms. Just do the feet only. It's super fun. And I feel like a lot of us run out of things to do whenever we're teaching. It takes up so much time too. So it can kind of help you build a piece. It also helps them regain knowledge of it because I feel like whenever you make it goofy or fun, they have more of an understanding with it as well. There's a lot of things that you can do like that, like changing up the speed or acting like a different animal, things like that. I also feel like repetition is super important with these young dancers. So instead of trying to come up with a dance where they just do step upon step upon step, you can take things like, okay, we're going to do 4 slides, then we're going to do bounce to the right, bounce to the left, and then you repeat it. I feel like there's a lot of dance teachers that try to make things way too hard and way too difficult. And I think whenever you have gotten into the element that you feel you are a good dance teacher, it's when you start making up choreography for the people that you're actually teaching and not choreography for yourself. So remember that it is not for you as the teacher, it's for them, and it needs to look good on them. If you look a hot mess and like a goofball, that's okay because you're thinking about putting this on beginning dancers that need the repetition. We'll talk about the game in just a second that I talked about. It's really, really helpful and super fun with the younger dancers. When I come in to do guest classes, I think the biggest thing that I get a lot of success from is I break the dancers up into teams. So instead of saying like group 1, group 2, or group 3, you could divide your class into 3 different groups like we just talked about. But then you can tell them they get 30 seconds to make up their team name. So let's say this group over here, this group here, and this group here. And then you give them 30 seconds and you say, okay, you have 30 seconds to make up your team name. It's really bonding for the class because it's not as separating as saying this group, and this group. It's like that you're working together as a team. I feel like sometimes we say those things to students and it helps them get that like culture building, team building just a little bit more. And it's really funny for the teachers because I feel like the students make up crazy names, especially the younger ones. I've gotten anything from like sparkly unicorn princesses to the fierce divas whenever you talk about it with them. So it's really fun, gives them a second to use their own creativity and things like that. I feel like TikTok is pretty enveloped in this beginner group already. I feel like most of them have an iPhone that's probably nicer than ours and they already know how to use it better than we do and blah, blah, blah. The thing that I found that's really successful in a world that TikTok has taken over is if you use what they know from TikTok, but then make it your own. So you can use some of the moves. I know a lot of them are like gestural things like this. I personally don't have a TikTok because I feel like it's ruined a lot of dancers. But let's say they really like this act of like this bounce. You could say, I love that move. I absolutely love when you do it and I think it's so cool, even if it's the world's biggest white lie. But you could say, I think we should make up our own arms. So you can take these side-to-side bounces that the dancers really want to use, but then maybe have them come up with their own arms. And you can say the only 2 rules are it can't be arms you learn from TikTok and you can't steal somebody else's arms. So off the top of my head, maybe I would take this and that would be what I would do. You're still using a part of it and you're kind of working with them, but you're not taking something that somebody else made up and just putting TikTok dances on the stage. I really like challenging younger dancers too. I say I would like you to use the next 30 seconds to come up with something that you made up. And it's really hard for them right now. I remember when I was younger, the only fad dances we had were like Soulja Boy. But with these younger dancers, I do feel like it's really, really difficult because all they know are fad or TikTok dances. So it's funny because you can say, all right, I want you to make something up, and they make up like a 3-step turn, but they do their own arms with it. And it's super challenging, and if it doesn't work, you can go ahead and get rid of that part of this. It does work sometimes though. A big thing that people struggle with is parents that think their kid is ready to move up to the next level, and you know as the teacher, because you're the gifted one that is teaching the class, that they are not ready to move up. With that being said, here's a couple pointers on what to talk to parents about or say that is the requirement for them to move to the next level. I don't necessarily ever feel like it's important for students to have a specific step. It's more of the knowledge up here. Do they have a good memory of the dance? Are they able to compute what comes next? Do they have knowledge of the steps? If you say the word slide, do they know that that means this and not this? So memory and knowledge, super important. If they're up on stage and they look like they don't know any of it, they're not ready to move on to the next level. If they go up on stage and they can't tell you what a thing is, very similar to ballet. If I said the word dégagé and a student did a grand jeté, I would tell them they were not ready to move to the next level as well. Comprehension, that's a huge one. Are they able to comprehend that when you say the word slide, you mean this and not this, kind of like we just said? But comprehension also means that they are able to show it to you. So not only are they able to say this is a slide, but they're able to comprehend you said the word slide, they need to show what slide means. Participation is hugely important. Are they alert in class? Are they mature enough to move up to the next level age-wise or level-wise? Are they actually giving their knowledge? Are they raising their hand when you have questions? Are they speaking up? Do they feel as if they are participating in the class and actually in the moment and not thinking about pizza and butterflies? And then lastly, super important for the younger group because they learn so quickly, and the ones that stand out pop out really quickly to all of us. Attendance. Are they showing up to classes? Are they missing almost every other week? Do they show up late without their things like that? I know it has a lot to do with parents, and that's kind of hard, but that's kind of something you can use. I don't want to say against the parents because that's not where I'm going with this, but more so you can use that as a, well, you know, we're struggling with so-and-so's attendance, so we would like to see them come to more classes, and then maybe they would be ready to move on. So memory, knowledge, comprehension, participation, and attendance. Those are the 5 biggest things for me for moving up to the next level. And you're able to tell parents that those things are either happening or not happening. It's cut and dry. There's no gray zone with that, which is really nice because as dance teachers, we get questioned a lot, and I'm like, okay, you're a doctor, that's amazing, and that's incredible that you went through all that schooling, but maybe a doctor or a dentist shouldn't be telling me if their dancer is ready to move up to intermediate hip-hop, if that makes sense. Okay, so that kind of stops me in the beginner area. I'm going to move more onto these intermediate dances and steps and things like that. Now we'll also do advanced, and then like I said, we'll also talk about games that have become part of my everyday teaching when I go into studios. Okay, so some intermediate steps that I really live by. These are just 10 that I scribbled down quickly before doing this video, so if you want to take a quick screenshot of this, you are more than welcome. I'll hold it up for just a second longer. So I just quickly went through and listed 10 intermediate steps. And all of these are my opinion. If you watch this video and you're like, that's not how I teach, that's perfectly fine. I love everybody's different ways of teaching. This is just something that's worked for me. And every time I get hired to go in somewhere new, it seems to be very monumental in helping them develop a hip hop curriculum. So we'll talk through some of these really quick so you kind of get an idea. I call this move the lasso party. It goes out and in, out and in, more of a touch out and in than side to side, and I use the lasso arms. It kind of takes on a little jazz funk vibe, which is super duper fun. If you saw the HT walk-in, I call that heel toe. Tons of different variations. Pretend your dancers ended in second. You could take a heel toe, and let that shoulder drop, or you could take it with both feet, one foot and then the other. You have many variations variations you can do on that step. I put 3-step turns in more of the intermediate thing because I'm sure all of you can vouch for me on this, but 3-step turns are way harder than we actually think they are. You always get one dancer that turns the wrong way or ends up doing 2 steps or 4, not 3. Drag turns are a hard one for a lot of dancers because of picking up the foot that you started on. So if you prep out with this foot, you're picking up that foot and then jumping open, same with the other side. For some reason, picking up the foot you originally stepped on really throws dancers off. Jump ball change. This one is so fun because there's a million variations. So anything that goes away from center and ball changes back in. You literally can do this so many different ways. It doesn't matter what foot. It just has 3 steps. Out and in. Out and in. Hype runs. So fun. Amazing for transition steps. So thinking hype run backwards, you're going step, pick it up, step, pick it up, step, pick it up, and whenever you get going a little bit faster, you can take some arms, and it's a really fun transition to move from one place to the next. Swag walks, super fun if you need a little groovy section. You're thinking about stepping out, letting the other foot kind of trail through, things like this. The fun part about it is you can take a lot of different arms. You can do it as an add-in, ripple, peel off, the end of a thing if you need an exit off the stage so that they're not just like bye whenever they leave. Roll-ups, also super fun, tons of variations. You're thinking about jumping together and rolling up from the bottom. I put this one in the intermediate category because you'll get a lot of dancers that want to do a body roll down, not up. I'm goofy with my kids when I come in to teach. I say this one needs to be like you're throwing up, as gross as that is, they think it's hilarious. This one goes up your body, not down your body. Fun with the arms too. Crazy legs. So a TikTok move a little bit before that. Kind of funny. They probably all know how to do it already. It bounces in the middle and picks the other foot up. If they start to get this move down and they got it, they can add a little in, some fun arms, whatever you want to do. But it's also super fun just to bounce it side to side without the knees. Moving scoops. If you were born in the 90s like I was, you probably did this at one point in your life, but you're taking a little cha-cha or a ball change or a chasse, adding a scoop on to it as a transitional step. So, with that being said, like I told you, this was just about 10 examples of things. It's not like these have to be your set in stone 10 moves to pull from, but great if they are. Okay, so with intermediate dancers, they love a groove at the beginning. You turn on music they know. You do a groove at the beginning. Let's say I want a 2-minute warm-up at the beginning of my class to get everybody's cardio going and to get them in the hip-hop element. Most studios go from ballet to point to contemporary to leaps and turns to hip-hop, then to tap. So you got to get them in the moment. You just have them follow along. Take those steps that we just talked about. You start class like that. They start some bounces just like the beginner dancers did. Then the next thing, you make a little ball change. And you just have them follow along. You do it so many times that everybody in the room starts to get the move down. And you can yell it out, or you can just have them follow you. Just make it repetitive over and over again. That's how I start my intermediate classes because they have the comprehension to follow along a little bit more than your beginner dancers. I also input across the floors once I get to a more intermediate level. Stuff that's easy. You don't have to break your brain thinking about it. You could say, we're going to walk forward 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to pivot, turn, walk 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to pivot, turn. I love across the floors because I'm a guest teacher. When I come in, I need a way to break the ice. I'm goofy, I'm loud, I'm the least shy person you'll ever meet. But because of that, I need a little bit of time to get with these students, especially your intermediate level. That's where they start to care what people think and they're like, oh, boys, all that stuff. So with that being said, across the floors are super helpful. Have them go 3 people at a time, add their own arms. They can play with it, play upbeat music, do a couple of those. You can make up anything. The beginner and the intermediate steps I listed, I literally just throw them together and I'm like, okay, we're gonna go cross, touch, run, go again. Like that's how easy it is. Don't make it harder on your brain than it is. They're low key, they're for groove. I think whenever you start doing choreography with these dancers, the speed that we talked about during beginner is still helpful. Like, they still think it's funny if you count like 1, 2. They still think it's funny. And if they don't, they're like, whoa, and then it's goofy and they never forget about it. So you can get into some of these more hard steps or these intermediate steps. You can talk about this lasso party, and then maybe we go into a 3-step turn, and you can do that whole thing slow. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They still think it's funny. They still have a good time with it. And if there's a couple that are really, really embarrassed because they can't pick it up, it gives them some time to compute it so they don't feel left out, because that's the age where you'll get the kid that's like shuts down and crosses their arms because they don't get it. So, yeah. I also love to use partner work in my intermediate level classes. I feel like it's super important because the steps start to get a little trickier, like the lasso party example that we've used. Maybe you say, you can like white lie again, I really, really like this step, but I need help with arms. They'll raise their hand and be like, oh, you could do this with the arms. Then you've built something with them. It's teamwork. They don't feel like you're just standing up there preaching to them. They're able to give you a lot of help and knowledge on their end. Super helpful. We'll also talk about the game with this group because they love it still, even though they've gotten a little older. With music for your intermediate group, I still try to be pretty clean, but it can start to get into the songs that have, I don't even want to say innuendo, but it's really hard if you're a hip-hop teacher to find songs that don't talk about sex, drugs, and drinking. We're all going to be honest with each other here, but I make everything clean, no cuss words. I try to stay away from innuendo. I also am not the kind of teacher that's trying to be your best friend, like the students' best friends, if that sounds better, because they are going to want to hear the songs that they know the words to. Like, no time ever is it appropriate for you to use the song WAP for 18 and under dancers. I don't care if they know it, I don't care if they have it on their iPhone, and I don't care if every single time you say, okay, we're going from the top, they go, yeah, make it drop. I don't care. I'm not playing that game. I don't play those kind of songs for my 18 and under dancers. After this video is over, I'll post my email on here as well, and if you want, I will be happy to send you a screenshot or a list of songs that I use for beginner classes, intermediate classes, and advanced classes. It obviously gets a little bit more open-ended the older they get, but it's also super important to keep it appropriate. I am not the kind of teacher that just plays it because they already know it. They think it's cool, but I don't. So I still play fun music, I still play edited, clean stuff, and we still have a good time. I'm just not willing to push it too hard. I think that the TikTok issue is most prominent in this level. This is the group of kids that can't go a second without being on TikTok. They look at you like they're bored, exhausted, and dead, and then you give them a water break and they're out doing a TikTok in the hallway. I'm like, I thought you were tired. So with that being said, I use that to my advantage. I don't play songs that are on TikToks if I can try not to, or you can tack on the beginning. It's the most brilliant thing that I think I was able to come across this year. I did a combo to Get Up by Sierra, not knowing that there was a TikTok to it. And so when I taught it the first time, I was like, oh, they already know a dance to it. And then they're like, no, Miss Andy, it's a TikTok. So then I choreographed the first part of it and let them do the TikTok at the end. And I didn't put my name on the end of it. I put TikTok Choreography by Andy. TikTok, Andy's part. And it's really fun because I think you can kind of work with it. I hate it. I know a lot of you do too, and it's my worst nightmare. But in a world where it's so prominent, you might have to use it. Or you can do what we talked about during the beginner classes. There's a ton of TikToks. There's a ton of things where it's gestural. And I don't even think it's good dance moves. I feel like it's somebody that didn't know much about dance creating them. So with that being said, maybe you say, I need some help with arms. I need this TikTok arm that all you guys like doing so much, but I want to make something else happen with it. And maybe you take a pivot and you go, I need those TikTok arms, but I want to take it with a pivot. I actually have an across the floor that does that exact thing in it, and they love it. And it adds a pivot and it adds your own flavor to it, but you're using something that they already know a little bit about. We talked about this earlier with the beginners, but I use the same kind of concept for moving them on to the next level. Do they have the memory of the dance? Is the knowledge there? Is the comprehension there? Is the participation and is the attendance there? Because my biggest thing about this age group and this level is that they start to explore other options of activities. That's okay. I love that they do. I love theater. I love sports. I love all of those things. But this is where you start to weed out the dancers that want to do it as a recreational activity and do other things with it, and the other dancers that want to move to the advanced, more competitive level. So that is another thing you can use with the parents. You can say, they are not doing blank, blank, and blank. I do not think they are ready to move on to this, and here is some hard facts about why. They missed 6 of the 8 classes we had. They didn't know the dance. They didn't come with anything ready to go. You have cut and dry things, because when you say they need to have a headstand to move on to the next level, some people aren't made like that. I was started as a gymnast, so those things come easier to me. But if I was in a jazz class, a developpe for me is going to be technically savvy and pretty, but it's going to be 45 degrees. If you tell them that they need to have a 180 developpe, you're also working with people that maybe don't have that capability yet. So if you can have cut and dry words like the ones I've discussed, it's a lot easier, because I don't think it should be about how many tricks they can do. It should be about the way in which they do the tricks. It's way more important. I would rather see a dancer do the solid, clean triple and it end nicely than them be going for 6 because that was the requirement for the advanced level. Advanced, in my brain, is not just about what they're doing, it's the way in which they take class and the maturity in which they're taking things into their brain. That, again, is a personal opinion, but you will get a lot more out of dancers if you have a cut and dry base of things that you need to say for them to move to the next level. And it's amazing because parents understand those words. They understand the word comprehension. They understand attendance. And you can literally show them where the dancer has not participated or not attended the class. Very, very easy, cut and dry. Again, I think that's about it on the intermediate side. We'll move to advanced. I will also talk about the game that I keep referring to because I feel like it's a good example of helpfulness on building choreography or classwork. And then we'll talk about a couple other things as well. But, okay, so for the most part, for the most part, advanced steps don't get much harder than intermediate. I feel like it's the way in which you do the steps that makes them advanced. So I'm going to give you some examples of ones. I'll hold this up first like I've been doing. So these would be what I would consider some more advanced steps. If you want to screenshot this, I will also talk through them like I've been doing. Like I said, though, most of the time when I get to these advanced steps, it's more about the groove or the movement of them that makes them advanced. So I call gorilla runs anything that goes up, up, in, up, in. And the reason I call them gorilla runs is when I was first taught them, they had an opposite kind of swing effect to them. So you're thinking something that travels forward with like a big scary arm. Obviously you can take many variations on the arms if you want, but it's a really cool, really hype transitional step. B-boy twists. So anything that would prep you for a b-boy breakdance kind of feel, an over and back with like a body twist. You can take it really fast, over and back. You can take it left and right. You can take it front and back, anything in that genre. Toe twists. These always seem crazy to me because in my opinion, they feel so groovy, but some people can't sit into these like little pockets of the movement. So you're thinking about moving just your toes and taking that groove back or up. It's super fun if you have a spot in your music where it's kind of like that. You've been doing all this hype crazy stuff and then everybody just takes a little groove. It's really nice. Syncopated triplets. I have had so many students be like, oh, I cannot do this. Some of the best dancers I've ever met. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. But you're thinking about a normal triplet. You're just switching up the speed of it. So let's say you want them to go across the floor. 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4, 5 and 6 and a 7 and a 8. Lots of hip hop music has that dynamic, that bass that drops down in the song. So you're looking to hit all the different beats. Quick, quick, slow, or the opposite like we did earlier. Syncopating things can make it really advanced. Rond de jambe ball change, one of my favorite transitional steps, especially if you have a group of kids that can handle kind of a groovy, fun feel. You're thinking rond de jambe ball change, rond de jambe ball change, rond de jambe ball change, rond de jambe ball change. It's really fun to move transitions like that because everybody can drop their chest. It can get really hype with the party. Splat kicks, that's what I call them, because it's fun. There's a whole bunch of different variations. You can take the full on, like, if you want, or you can take just a little one, or you just pick it up, things like that. I think it's fun and a big bass in the music. I think the reason I feel it's kind of an advanced step is mostly the maturity of it. I don't mind when I'm judging because I teach a lot of hip hop, but you're literally doing a crotch shot, so I don't really want to see like my 4-year-old hip hop just be like, and hold their leg up there for a long time. I think that's just my thoughts, but maybe other people agree with me. Ball change over variations, super fun if you're into footwork, housing, any sort of funk like that. We already did the b-boy twists, but you could take it, kind of move it around however you want. So think any ball change with a slide or a step or another ball change, catching it in the middle, just to kind of play with it, because you can make any ball change look fun, transition-y, anything like that. Kick, cross, touch variations. I put these in my advanced because it's super hard for students to think about staying on that foot. If you've had issues with that before, it's maybe because you're teaching it too young. You stay on that foot. For some reason, that really throws dancers off. And it's cool too because you can think kick, cross, ball change or kick, cross, touch. The difference is the ball change has more of a rock. The kick, cross, touch has a stop in it. Hello. You're going to get kicked, sir. Okay, I love you. Goodbye. This one has more of a stop in it. So just a little different. I put those in the advanced category because, like I said, it's really difficult for a lot of younger students to stay on that foot. Out, in with arm variations. This one's funny. You're thinking about out, in, out. Out, in, out. For some reason, because they just use that foot and all their weight's still on this one, it's hard for dancers to pick it back up. But think about all the fun arms you could do with that. You can do so many different fun up and down level things. With my younger dancers, sometimes I get to this and I call it Bob the Builder. We go Bob the Builder because you're holding on to a box like you're building something. All these analogies just, yeah. Swing rocks. These are super fun too for transitions or for just part of the choreo. You're stepping back. You can take added extra arms. The most fun thing is that with these advanced dancers, you'll start to see them take these steps that they've learned with you over the course of these 3 levels, and they'll use it as their improv, because you'll talk about improving at the beginning and they all get nervous and they all of a sudden do this and it's just awkward. They'll start using these things. They'll be like, oh, yeah. And then their improv will all of a sudden become more and more selective with the things that you've taught them. Advanced dancers are always the ones people are so scared to teach, and it's such a fun group for me because you can create this dance that is so easy, but just make it kind of funky, difficult, whatever you want to say, with basic steps. So, with that being said, you're thinking a groove warm-up to start. Maybe go a little bit with harder stuff though. These ball changes. These toe twists we talk about. 2 minutes, just cardio, hype them up, get some of those steps in there. Across the floors, same thing we talked about. Piecing together some of these steps, maybe parts that you want to use in the combo. Maybe your combo starts with 1E and 2E and 3 and 4. And you use that because then you don't have to teach it again later. 1E and 2E and out, heel, toe, you walk, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then they started again, and you didn't even have to make that up. It was the first part of your combo that you got from those steps that we already talked about. From there, I try to do a new combo every week with my advanced dancers. Advanced dancers sometimes have other things that they have to be at on nights. If you have dancers that are on dance team, maybe they are at a game. It's really difficult to teach the same combo 2 weeks in a row. I think their brains need to be worked hard. I think that if you try to do the same combo twice, their attention span maybe isn't there anymore. And I also feel like when they go to conventions or competitions or things like that, they need the challenge of picking up choreography quickly. Personal opinion, unless you're working on your recital number or your competition piece, try to throw choreo at them. Different styles too. If one week you go more jazz, funk, commercial, film kind of choreography, awesome. The next week do something that's lower, hits harder, maybe an old school track that has more of a bass than these newer kind of poppy hip hop songs. I think the biggest thing that I say to advanced dancers, I always say this, every class I teach, I made this up. I made this combo up. I don't want to see you do it how I would do it. Do it how you would do it. I already know what it looks like. Like, I say that to everybody. Add your own flavor, add your own style. If you do it how I do it and you just spit it back out the way I taught it, super boring. I want to see you add what you knew already and your flavor to it. It's obviously very rewarding when they want to dance like you, but you also want to give them the opportunity to show you the style that they had when you first started. That's cool. I think they still like the game that we'll talk about, so we'll talk about making it a little bit more advanced as well, because that's super cool. I also feel that this one is the most difficult to talk about with music. So my advanced dancers most of the time have heard all of the songs and they've listened to the explicit ones and they think it's super cool and blah, blah, blah. I use the songs that they like. I use the clean version though, and I don't care if they know the explicit parts, whatever. I'm still not willing to use them for 18 and under classes. I think it's super important to show them that there is one side of choreography and dance and another side, because I don't want to be the one that, maybe there's one kid in the room that hasn't heard the unedited version of a song. I don't want to be the person that showed it to him for the first time. So now, since Apple Music, Spotify, those things are so easy, get the clean ones. It's not that hard, and if it doesn't have a clean option, don't play it. That's really just my brain with that. Also, the biggest thing for me is that most of the time, the levels for hip-hop classes are not age-based. They are level-based. So I would really use your brain and think about, as a studio owner or as a teacher, is this student maturely ready to be in the advanced class? I don't care if they're 11 and they're creaming everybody else in their class. If the maturity level is not there and they are going to bring down that level of your advanced room, they aren't ready to move up. I also feel like hip hop always gets put into the category, okay, if you're in jazz 1 and ballet 1, you should be in hip hop 1. I think that those things should be genre based, in my opinion. Sometimes students click better with a certain style. Hip hop has always come a little bit easier to me because of where I grew up and where I was trained. But there are other things that come a lot harder to me. So maybe I was in ballet 3, but I was in hip hop 5. That's okay as long as my maturity matches the level of the class that I'm in. I hope that makes sense. And please feel free to reach out to me about that, because I know that's such a hard area to come across. But that's a pretty good breakdown of what I do in my classes. Obviously missing a couple of things that we've talked about, but I'll get into that as well. I feel like we could get into this game now. It's super, super fun to talk about, and I also think it's super important for these dancers to have something that uses the knowledge that you've taught them over the course of these classes into like the 3rd or 4th class of the semester. Okay, so what I do with this game is I take, let's say for my intermediate class, we take this list of things that they know how to do. You don't have to have it listed. They probably have the knowledge of it. And you could take flashcards or whatever pieces of paper you have, and you lay them down flat on the floor with names of different steps on them. So I'm going to use these 3 as examples. We have the hype run, we have the 3-step turn, and then we have the lasso party. These were all listed on the intermediate steps. And pretend there's 100 of these cards spread out all over the ground. You're going to have each student go pick up one of these things. So let's say I'm the first student and I go pick up a 3-step turn. It is then their job to come up with the arms that you do on the 3-step turn, the direction you go in, whatever it is you want to tell them to do with it. Give them 2 minutes, if you will. So first student picks 3-step turn. It's their time to share. They say, okay, I got 3-step turn. We're going to go 3-step turn to the right with party arms around our head. 1 and 2. And when we go back the other way, our arms are going to go down our body. 3 and 4. Perfect. So the next student, they have picked, let's say they picked card lasso party. So the way I showed you earlier was this one that stepped out and in with the arms above their head. It's their job to come up with how they want to do it. So maybe they want to take it out, tuck it in, lasso, take it in. Perfect. Next student picks the card. Hype runs. We talked about these earlier. These are the ones that move back or forward. Maybe they want 2 with like a rally hand and 2 with an open cross. Ba-da-da, 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 ba-da-da. What you get to do now is you get to create your piece. This could be your recital number, even a competition number if it ends up being so good that you're like, yeah, I'm going to use this. But you now have a piece. You did, let's say it starts like this. You did 3-step turn, 3-step turn, out, in, hype in, hit, hit. You just had 2 8 counts of a combo. It's done for you already. Put on a song, boom, 2 8 counts of your recital dance done. 6, 7, 8. It goes 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 3, 5, 7. Done. And they put that together. You taught them the steps. It's not copywriting, but then they already feel like they have been included in the process of making up the dance. Super fun. We'll do a couple more of those with more of your advanced and beginner levels just to make people feel more confident. But here's some beginner ones. Some kid picks pivot. Some kid picks jazz square. Some kid picks bounces. Starting with the pivot kid. They always are a little bit more low-key, so you might need to help them if they need it, but maybe they want to take those pivot arms we talked about at the beginning. Perfect! Next kid got the word jazz square. Maybe they just want to take them with a what. And then you got the kid that got bounces. Maybe they want to do them with the pull your pants up, feel like we talked about earlier, duh, and duh. Go in that order, you have a combo. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You go 1, 2, 3, 4. So fun, so easy. They added to it and they feel like they helped you create this dance. Yeah? Advanced is super fun because they get kind of funky with it. Out in with arm variation is what your first kid picks. Syncopated triplets, that's what your second kid picks. Your third kid picks gorilla runs. So they're starting with this out in with an arm variation. Maybe they want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So they go across their body and then they lasso the second one. Perfect. From there you got the kid with the syncopated triplets. Maybe they go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So they went up, cross, down. Then you got the kid that got the gorilla runs. They're going to take 1 with a pull and 1 with it up. Your combo is started. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7, and 8. Then it's now going to start left. 1 and 2, 3, and 4. You have the start of a combo. Super fun. Kind of comes into like a game feel because they picked it. Then you get to piece it all together. Maybe you pick numbers to see who goes first. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. I feel like that's about it. Trying to see if I missed anything. Oh, music. I did say I would talk about that for a minute. If you feel like you're struggling with music, I have a huge playlist of clean hip hop and then a little bit more intermediate and advanced. Please email me if you want a copy of it or a list. Andy, ANDIESTITT@gmail.com. I'll also post it when I post this video. The other thing is if you feel like you still need some extra help with this, I do a ton of in-person and virtual workshops every year, all year. Starting to book up right now for 2021. So please feel free to email me or message me. Thank you so much for watching.